Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Educated Collins Snap channel. How you doing? So today we're going to be talking about the quantum realm. So this is the new feature location coming out. It's pretty cool, in my opinion. It's pretty interesting. Definitely has a pretty cool look. I'm gonna fix that real quickly as well. But yeah, taking a look at the location. So this one is after you play a card here, set its base power to 2. So this isn't game breaking, but I think there's going to be some common strategies that are going to come with this location. The one that jumps out to me, and probably the one that jumps out to everyone, is Cerebro 2, right? You're a lot of times locations screw Cerebro decks because a lot of the locations add buffs and things like that. So one of your locations have a higher chance of being something that actually benefits you. I think a lot of people want to try Cerebro 2 here. There's this big caveat though, where I'm like, I can't really recommend this because Shuri's so popular and Red Skull is a really good tech into Cerebro decks, right? Cerebro decks want to have everything the same power, and now you have Red Skull buffing everything. And that'll basically ruin the Cerebro game plan and make you win that one lane, but you'll lose the other two. So it's a bit of a major downside right now that Shuri's so popular and Red Skull's so played that is a big problem to deal with. However, you're not gonna fight nonstop Shuri's copium, and there are still things that are pretty cool that we can still talk about. So the first section of cards are Cerebro 2 focused. I couldn't resist. I wanted to talk about Cerebro 2. I definitely think there are some things to think about. So we do have Cerebro getting the buff, and then you also have Mystique getting the buff, right? So that's going to be really nice. That's going to be really cool. Then you have things like Wasp, right? Getting that 2 power for Cerebro. That's going to be really nice. And things like Adam Warlock, right? This is now a card you could just play down. And it's going to be very easy to contest that lane if you play something on 1, if you're playing a Wasp. The Atom itself is going to get 2 powers, so if you just play it by itself on turn 2, good chance you win that lane. Depends on how your opponents are playing. That's definitely an idea you can do. Iron Man as well, really good card. Very just generally going to be good because it's going to be a 4 power base plus every card you play is going to double that. So really nice to make work. And an onslaught, if you could go Cerebro Mystique onslaught, everything's 2 power there. You and they don't interrupt that at all. You've completely won. So that's a crazy synergistic card, but yeah, we're high rolling if you can get that to go off. So I'm not really expecting that kind of thing, but it is something that could exist, that could work. Would be really fun if that did happen. Now, the one tech for the Red Skull I do have is you play Shang-Chi in that Red Skull lane. Now, there's a pretty big downside in that they have to play Red Skull in the quantum realm lane, and then you can play the Shang-Chi into that same lane. Then you'll kill the Red Skull, and then also the buff will be active, right? Your Shang-Chi will go down to 2. Downside of that is I think people now, especially now that I've made this video, people are not going to play their Red Skull into the quantum realm lane. They're gonna play it outside, right? And that's gonna ruin it. So that's like the hopeful play you Shang-Chi. That's like the 5 head play you're playing Shang-Chi in your deck. But I don't think people are gonna fall for it for too long. So you might surprise a couple of people, especially early. But I think after people realize, oh, you could do that, well, then they're gonna play around that outcome, right? And it's not a hard strategy to play around. So I don't really think that's gonna last, but it would be cool. It's definitely like a highlight moment if you can get that to happen. They play like a buffed up Red Skull in the quantum realm, and then you're like, okay, it's Shang-Chi. I'd love to see a video of that, but unlikely. So, what can you do? Next up, we have the list of cards, which I think will be generically good. Even though a lot of the cards in the previous list could also be generically good, I think that these are just going to be like, okay, I could run this pretty easily. The hood, right? You turn that -2 into a +2 power. That's crazy. And then you get a 0 -6 or 1 -6 on top of that. Like, that's really good value. 2 mana 8, right? Really, really nice value. Mysterio is also pretty good. You just don't play the main body in the quantum realm, but the other one will get the +2 power, which is really nice, right? You're getting a 2 -6 power. I think Patriot Mystique is going to be really good because the Patriot's normally 1 and the Mystique is normally 0. So you're getting free buffs on a decent deck. That's going to work out really well for you. Then you have Blue Marvel. You don't really play Blue Marvel in the Quantum Realm location, but it means that unless the opponent doing something fancy with ongoing or whatever, you're going to be winning that realm because your units cost 3 or give you 3, their units give you 2. So that's pretty nice. Captain Marvel, I think, is also really nice. Anything that can move cards or play cards in other locations, I think are generically going to be nice. Captain Marvel, if you have an empty spot, woo, here's 6 power in the 2 power base lane. Vision, same thing. Here's 7 power in the 2 power base lane. Arrow's also pretty cool. Arrow's broken, but you can still use her here, and you could do something fancy by moving cards into the realm and docking their power, especially if they're not expecting it. So that could be a nice tech play you can do. And then Doctor Doom, 5 power everywhere. It's not affected by the realm because the bots don't care. They're not being played in the location, so you just get safe power in that location without really investing too much. Now, next up, we have some cool combos. These are more niche, but I think they work well, and they're also pretty cool. Deadpool, starting at 2, I think will be a very nice upgrade in terms of how fast you can ramp the card. Usually it starts at 1 and it goes from 1 to 2, 2 to 4. If you can just play in the realm and it starts at 2, well, that's a lot better. If you can do something like Nova, you start at 3, right? The ramp can get pretty insane. So that's something you can do if you want to play a Deadpool deck. It can work well there. Luke Cage, I think, also is going to be a very cool and very powerful tech because since it negates the power reduction effects, just like with Valkyrie and others, you should be able to retain the base power effects for all the cards you play in the realm. So what you can do is turn 6, right? Play the Luke Cage and like your, I don't know, your Typhoid Mary or whatever you're putting in there. The problem with Typhoid Mary if you play this is they're gonna know you're playing Luke Cage, right? So you have to play something that like makes some sense, but like isn't like completely revealing that you're a Luke Cage deck. And then whatever it is, right, they'll gain the power back, and that could be a really nice turn 6 play to surprise them, get that sneaky extra power and win. And if you're playing Luke Cage, Hazmat works, and Hazmat works anyways in this. Things are going to be 2 power. If you can reduce it to 1 power or 0 power, it's going to be very easy to win those lanes in multiple lanes. So definitely think Luke Cage, definitely think Hazmat has a place here. The Absorbing Man, there's definitely going to be some strategies you can use Absorbing Man and find a way to make it work out. And then same thing with Luke Cage. Shadow King kind of has the same effect where you do have to be playing it in that same lane, but it does set the cards to original base power. And what you can do is a lot of people will be playing 0 power cards, 1 power cards into that lane to get some buffs. And you can say, oh, you're going back to 0, you're going back to 1. While your cards maybe started like 4 base power, they're going back to 4. So you can really catch people off guard if they're not really paying attention and get that massive point swing in that location. So that's very abusable. And then we have Dracula. Dracula just doesn't care about the location at all. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to discard my whatever and I'm going to have that power. It doesn't matter what I was originally. So Dracula definitely works there if you want to do that kind of thing. So I do think these do work, can be fun to play. The one that jumps out to me is definitely the Luke Cage, but I do think all of them really do have a place. And then the last section, I would say, is the more countermeasures, the counter cards. We've kind of already talked about Red Skull for Cerebro too, but it needs to be stated like, if you want to play Cerebro in this location and it looks like they're playing Shuri, like it's not going to be fun because it counters you so hard. And I definitely think that's a problem. Even though it's supposed to be a downside, there are some matchups where it's an upside, so kind of interesting. Um, then we have the classic Scarlet Witch Storm Rhino. Just like ignore the location. I don't want to deal with Quantum Realm. Just get rid of it. Then we have Quake, right? Quake can actually be pretty powerful since you're going to change where people play, and if you have priority, you can Quake into and then mess up where they're trying to play around. Maybe they play a key card with huge stats and it becomes 2 base power. So that could really be a game swinger. Quick is generally a risky card, so I don't really recommend it, but I always like to throw out these spicy tech options if you can. And then we have Rogue. I think Rogue is going to make a lot of sense because I think a lot of people will be running ongoing into the location because it's the easiest way to take advantage of it. You run some type of ongoing Iron Man, whatever. And I think the Rogue is going to be really nice. You get that extra 2 power stat line for Rogue, which is quite relevant. And then you get to steal the ongoing ability. So I think Rogue is going to be a nice tech here if you just want to mess people, ruin people's days. Rogue it is. And the Super Skull is kind of like Rogue, but it's not as mean. But it's probably just as effective, where you take their abilities and you make it your own. If they're playing Iron Man, well, guess what? I'm also doing that, you know. So definitely in the right matchups and the right bubbles, the Super Skull could be a major boon. And you can also take the ongoing and move it to another lane, right? You don't, unlike Rogue, where you have to play in the same lane. Super Skull, it doesn't matter. It doesn't care. You can do whatever you want. So overall, those are my general thoughts on Quantum Realm. I do think it is something you want to be aware of. I wouldn't say you have to like fully build around this location, but you should think about it when you're looking at your decks and how to take advantage of it. It's definitely something you want to be like, okay, if Quantum Realm opens up, can I use it in any way? Because if you can't, like, it's a big waste of potential. So definitely think it's not ignorable, but it's also not, oh, I have to play around it. But overall, it should be a fun location. Honestly, it's not rocks, you know. So at least we thank Second Dinner for that. But all in all, that's all I got for Quantum Realms. Hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next one.